Hey, Janet, so thank you very much for putting aside some time to come and talk to me about GDPR and data breaches. I know that you're really busy, but it's one of those things where, I think recently, was it Typeform had a data breach? And so it's the first time that we've kind of seen something happen. And, I know that my All-Stars group in particular are like, well, what do we do about that? How does that work? So I wondered if you could just answer some questions for me and I can share them with my readers, and then everyone's a bit more in the know about what to do, what a data breach is, and then how to deal with it if that happens. So thank you so much. So first of all, what actually constitutes, a data breach where you're going to have to maybe do something about it?
Yes, so it's in the situation where you controlled personal data of some sort, like an email address, someone's passwords, locations, like IP addresses and such. And it can also be more severe personal data, like medical data. And if that data has been disturbed in some way, so if someone has destroyed it, even if it was accidental, if someone's lost it, so you don't even know where to access it anymore, if someone's altered it in a way that you didn't authorize, and if someone's disclosed the data, like spread it somewhere or shared it with someone that it wasn't supposed to be shared with.
So it's not necessarily just like, because I think when people think of data breaching, they think of like being hacked.
No, that's one thing, like someone having access to it that shouldn't have, but it can also be that you happen to share your screen with someone that shouldn't have seen what you had on it, or that you shared a password for something that shouldn't have been shared.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if it's something that is a proper breach, you're like, right, okay, this has happened and we think that we need to tell someone about it, what would you then do?
Yeah, so I think the best step to do is to contact the authority in your jurisdiction. So in the UK, that would be to call the ICO. In some instances, you can just do the reporting that way, but just call them and say, this is what happened, do I need to report it? Because not all data breaches need to be reported. Okay. So if it's a breach where the data that was accessed was encrypted, you probably don't have to report it because there's nothing they can do with the data. And as if they access data that you then can protect, you also don't have to report it.
So something like, say, LastPass. If LastPass got hacked and they contacted you, well, when someone gets breached, it seems that they tell you to tell the ICO anyway. So they kind of say, hey, we've experienced a breach. You need to do something about it, and here's what you do. But otherwise, so do you mean like if it was, say, LastPass, for example, but you changed your passwords immediately before anyone really had a chance to do anything, then you're kind of covered?
Yes, exactly. So that would be a perfect example of that. So they have maybe accessed your passwords, but they haven't acted on that information yet because they probably swiped a lot of people's passwords at the same time. And then if you just change them as soon as you can, then probably they won't access the data that you have protected with those passwords, and you should be fine not reporting it. The reason why the organizations ask you to report it is because they want their reports to be more comprehensive, and they can't be without your report as well.
Okay, so if in doubt, contact like the ICO if you're in, is that the UK or would that be in Europe as well, the EU?
That is the UK. So it's different authorities in different countries, but so it's going to be the equivalent of the ICO for the other countries.
Okay. Yeah. And what would not be a data breach that people often think might be, but really is like, no, you're good?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think we're not quite far enough into it to say for sure, because the authorities are quite fussy about what is a data breach. They don't really know yet because it's been 2 months essentially, and they're treating everything as it could be a data breach, I think, at this point. But if it's not personal data, if you're collecting something that could not be connected to a person ever, then it's not a data breach.
So if your email gets hacked as well, that's a data breach because they'll have access to your contacts and email addresses and that sort of thing. Okay, fantastic. And so you were saying, I think before, that it's the data controller that needs to report it. So as a virtual assistant, you're only the data controller if it's like your email address or your mailing list. It's data that you're collecting on behalf of your own company.
Exactly. So if you're the one requesting the data because you need it for your business, then you are the controller.
Okay.
And it's your business they're agreeing to give it to, you're the controller. But if you're doing it on behalf of your client, you're going to be the processor. And if you're the processor, you don't really have to report it. You have to report it to the controller so that they can report it to the authorities.
Right. I think what might happen though is that virtual assistants, their clients will say, can you fill in this form for me? Can you do it for me? So they're doing it, the virtual assistant's doing it, but on behalf of the client. So this is important really, so that they know how to fill in those forms or what to do next in case, which is likely the client will go, oh, I don't know, you sort it for me.
Exactly. And you also have to have their explicit permission to report this on their behalf, because the authorities will likely want a data processing officer of that company to report.
Okay.
So yeah, be prepared for them to ask what your status is with the company.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
So we have, you compiled, it was like a data breach notification template.
Yeah.
I know that, I think when Typeform was, when they were breached, they sent everyone a form to fill in, but we can't guarantee that that's going to happen for everybody. So I know that you created one that I've given to the All Stars, and I'm going to put a link in that people can buy it if they, suddenly need it and get and need to be able to submit this to the ICO or whatever. Now I've looked through it, it's pretty self-explanatory actually, because it does say in the notes like who's who and what you would do with this and everything. So thank you so much for that. I know that you put it together based on lots of, your own legal expertise as a international contracts lawyer, but that you also compiled it based on other lawyer groups that you're in and legal groups that you're in. Yeah,
trying to capture best practice because it's still an evolving area of law, so we won't really know what best practice is until maybe a year from now, but this is the best you can get at this moment.
Okay, fantastic.
Your basic. Okay.
Cool. Okay, that's a fantastic. And you were talking about in the template, we're talking about the 72-hour rule, but is it actually a rule, and about whether you might sometimes have to give the information in one go or two goes?
Yeah, so the 72-hour rule is intended as a rule, but in practice, a lot of data breaches are not discovered within 72 hours. So it can take months before you find out that data has been hacked. So that's the first thing. So if that happens, just call them, say we didn't know it was, what do we do? So just get guidance straight away. But for the 72 hours, you usually just have to report that there has been a breach. They don't expect you to know a lot. And then you give them the complete report later on. So that's within a couple of weeks.
So
and I think
sorry.
No, that's also part of the template. So you can report it in 2 stages. And so the first one is, this has happened. This is what we think it's going to happen. And the second one is, this is how we're dealing with it.
Okay. But if you have all the information in one go, then you can just submit it all in one go as well. Okay. So do you think the best thing to do is really to contact them and say, I've got a form, do you want me to submit it? Or, how do you want me, because they'll know, I guess, how they want you to proceed at that point.
Yeah, and if it's smaller breaches, they're quite happy to receive the reports over the phone, I think, even at these times, because they're trying to understand the procedure as well. So I would call them straight away and then see what they advise you to do. In some cases, it might not even be a data breach because you can't be sure. So just give them a call.
Okay, and then they'll tell you how they want you to send the information to them and in what way.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, and then what happens if you're not in the UK? How do you know who it is that you send it to?
Where you're incorporated, go by that option. And if you're not even in the EU as an incorporation entity and you're just handling European data, there's a central European authority for this. We could probably link to this somewhere so that people can get the information.
Okay, fantastic. But in the UK, it is the ICO.
Yeah, and even if you're somewhere else, if you call them, they're going to direct you to the right one for you. So you can even call it ICO even if you're not in the UK.
That's good advice, actually. Yeah, of course, they could probably just get on it for you.
They will know.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else that, so, we knew this was going to be quite a quick call, but we just wanted to sort of run through it and
Yeah.
just, is there anything else that you want to add that you think is important that people know about data breaches?
I think it's an evolving area. Just be safe. And even if you find out a week after the data breach, just call them. Even if you don't really think that you have a lot to report, just make sure that you give them a call. I think that's the main issue. And then secondly, don't be too quick in notifying clients until you know what the breach is and how to contain it so that you can give them complete information. Yeah, those are the main things.
Okay, fantastic. Because I think when we did the interview before, you were saying something like, say MailChimp got breached, for example, they would contact the ICO or whoever and tell them. And then if you then didn't, then that's when you might be in trouble, because the ICO would then go, well, they told these people and we haven't heard from those people. And that's when you'd be negligent.
Yep, definitely, because MailChimp will never contact your clients or your data subjects. They're just going to tell you because they're your processor. So you need to be the one to tell the data subjects that they have had a breach in their data. And email addresses is one of the things that can be used for a multitude of reasons and connected with other data that can lead to access issues. So that's the main reason why you need to just make the phone call, even if you're not doing the report at first, so that they know that you are aware and then advise you on how to proceed, because they're likely to be getting information from other people that had part of the same breach.
Cool.
So
and then they would, so would the ICO then tell you what to tell your clients or the people who...
They could also advise you, I think, in some ways, yes.
Yeah.
But most of the time, you should be getting complete information from the processor as to what the breach was, and that is what you should inform your clients of.
So they'll tell you what to say in a way, because otherwise you're like, well, what do I tell everyone? Like, how do I put this?
Yeah. So they will say, this is the type of data that has been breached. You can tell them that it was email addresses, for example. And then they will also tell you what they're doing to protect, if they're doing anything. And then what their advice would be for those people. And that is probably to change their passwords, for example. So just pass that along.
Right, you just pass that along to your client. I mean, it's interesting because sometimes people don't really think of an email address as being, it's sort of like money in a way. It's really valuable. I had, there's a wedding I'm going to, and someone's arranging the bus. The coach for us all to go there. And she sent an email to say, can you please pay your money? These are the people who have paid and these are people who have hadn't. And she not only just copied everybody in so that we could all see each other's email addresses, she did a little spreadsheet of everyone's email addresses and whether they paid or not. And I had to email her. Yeah, and I emailed her and said, I'm really sorry to be, a bit of a dick about this because how can you even say any of it without making it sound like you're just a big, noob. And I said, really, I don't want to share my personal data with anyone, data protection and everything. But also I just thought, because people were replying all. So not only was it annoying in an email sense like that, I thought, my God, she just put everything. And in fact, I think the first one even had her bank details in it.
No.
Yeah. And I thought, wow, my God, I can't. And so people don't really think about it. They're just so used to emailing and copying it, obviously. And I think it's now that people are starting to understand that someone's email address is almost like money. It's like £1,000 if you think of it that way,
Yeah, and I also think an easy way for you to find more peace of mind when it comes to this is to use services that use encryption. So whether that is a mail service or a service for anything you can find for your business or your clients, if you're using encryption, you're kind of safe even if you have a breach, because there's nothing they can do with the data. So
right. So even if you reported it, you'd be like, well, it's encrypted, and they'd be like, great, thanks, you do nothing. Yeah. Marvelous. Okay, thanks.
In most cases, if it's like solid encryption, but yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. And, as you said, summarizing, basically, if in doubt, contact the ICO or whoever it is in your region, your country, and they will tell you what to do next if you're not sure.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Perfect. Lovely. Thank you so much for your time, and have an awesome day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.